This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to do a quick kind of just overview and tutorial, just discussion about the new mechanics and keywords that come out of the next Digimon set, BT10. It's about a month away, and I'm already doing some playtesting for the set, so just want to make a video to go over some of the new cards and how they work since it is new, and kind of go from there. So also, right now it's translated to DigiXros and Save. These could be differently translated. I'm 99% sure it's going to be called Digimon Fusion, and I'm probably going to change the title and thumbnail to represent that, but obviously can't go back in time and do that. So it's Digi-cross for this video. If it ends up being Digimon Fusion, that's how it is. So we're just going to jump on into this guy. So first off, we have the save mechanic, or whatever they decide to call it. Essentially, it just means that any card with this save mechanic, so we see this Shoutmon here on the left, if you have a tamer, you can just put it underneath it as its bottom devolution card when it would be deleted, essentially. So that's kind of nice. It's only on deletion, so not any other kind of removal. So nothing like being returned to your hand, bomb deck, anything like that. It's only on deletion, and it can be any tamer. It doesn't have to be any of the new tamers too. So if you have just even like an analog boy out there, and you can just put it on underneath there. It doesn't matter, just underneath anything. And spoilers, it's so we can be used later in the game as well. So that is kind of like the new mechanic there. It's mostly with the cross heart cards there, and we'll see some more cards with it too. So next up, we've got Digicross, which will probably be localized to Digimon Fusion. It just has it's a mouthful of text, so we want to kind of go over it. So this, for example, for Shoutmon ×4, it says Digicross for Shoutmon and Ballistamon and Dorulumon and Starmon. So when you would play this card, you may place one of each of the listed cards from your hand or battle area as the bottom devolution card. Reduce the play cost of this card by 2 for each card played. So it has to be, again, hand or battle area. Inherently, there are some ways to do it underneath the tamers, which is why the save mechanic exists. You cannot do it in the raising either, but this is just kind of how that works. So for example, here we have this Digicross kind of example. So we have our Shoutmon. We're going to just pretend all 4 of these cards are in our hand. We can put all of them underneath the Shoutmon for essentially reducing it for 2 each, so this will become a 1 cost there, and we play it on the board. Some other things too is inherently you will not get a draw because this is not a devolution. This is you playing a card and reducing the cost with the effect of Digicross. Additionally, you do have to do it in the exact order shown here. So Shoutmon, Ballistamon, Dorulumon, Starmons, it does have to be this stack like you see right here. You can't change the order any way that you like it. So that's kind of important there. And then if you have anything underneath it, for example, let's say you have the Starmons out there, has a Pikmon underneath it, you do not get to move everything else, so the Pikmons would go in the trash way up here. And you still get the memory gain too. And lastly, you do not have to have everything in the Digicross to go into it. So for example, let's say I don't have the Starmons, I can still Digicross. This would just be for 3 memory because I'm using 3 cards, so this reduces it for 2 each. So this is reducing it by 6. 9 minus 6 is 3, so it's a 3 memory play, and go from there. Another kind of thing to do is that even though you will find some ways around it, these cards are hard played, which means that they do not get to swing inherently, though this Shoutmon has inheritable with this as Shoutmon, and the same gains rush. So that's kind of oppressive, and you'll see that a lot in this form, I would assume. But it's that's just kind of how all of this kind of works out. So any questions on this too, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll help you guys with any rulings. But this is just kind of the basics for it and just kind of how it goes. So I also do want to just mention the King version of Shoutmon. It is a secret rare. It is a little bit interesting too. So it does have Digicross in itself. So one Digimon is crossed heart in its traits. When you would play this card, replace 1 of each. So you can just literally put 1 of any cross art from either your battle area or from your hand underneath it to get essentially play it for 3. And then on play, you return 1 card with Digicross requirements from your trash to your hand. When you would Digicross this turn, you may treat this Digimon as meaning 1 of the Digicross requirements. And then, so just kind of how this works here is that, for example, let's say that we played the Shoutmon for a cost of 3 because we use the Starmons in our hand to get there. Then when we want to go into our big stack here, we do have to still meet the requirements, and do the order. So Shoutmon, Ballistamon, Duralumon, and since we're using Kingver as a Starmon, so it'll be here on the bottom, the Starmons underneath it will go into the trash, and then we play this for 1 memory because we put 4 cards underneath it. So for example, let's say we just had like the Shoutmon, Starmons, Ballistamon, and Duralumon on the board, and we don't have the 4x-X. The King version would be something where you could just play it for 3, get the Starmons underneath it, get the effects, and then you'd be able to kind of go from there. And just being able to recycle the Shoutmon ×4, I think is strong enough. So that's just essentially how Digi-cross works. This is not like the only card that exists into it. There's also Shoutmon pretty much is 1 line for it, and then there's also a Metal Greymon line for it too. But it's really neat. It's a cool mechanic, as long as it's not overrepresented in the sex format, and we'll see if that is the case. Next up, we do have also the material save. So this is kind of like an in-between of both. So for example, this Shoutmon ×4, when this Digimon would be deleted, you may place 2 of this Digimon's devolution cards that are in this Digimon's Digi-cross requirements underneath one of your tamers in any order. So it's kind of like a save mechanic, but it's only the sources instead of the Shoutmon itself. So I think that's a bit of a strong mechanic too. Just means that you can put it underneath a tamer and you can recycle them too. So this is also only works again if it's something that is deleted. So if you get bounced back to deck or back to hand, you will not get the material save. All the materials go back to the bottom, or just go into your trash, essentially. So something to check there. And so, for example here, and probably part of the reason that these cards are so strong, if you guys haven't seen these cards yet, you will. So we have Mikey here, and Mikey has an effect that when your turn, when playing one of your Digimon with Digi-cross requirements, by suspending this tamer, you place all cards from underneath your tamers for the devolution sources for the Digi-cross. So just means, so for example, if we have this Mikey and we have all these cards underneath our tamer between saves and material saves, we'd be able to tap him. We'd be able to play Shoutmons by using all the cards underneath it, and then we go from there. And then this is an 8k with Rush that Duralumon gives -2k to the security for the turn, and then go from there. And Shoutmon also has a good effect too. End of attack, and replace all the devolution cards underneath one of your tamers in any order to unsuspend one of your tamers if you do delete this Digimon, which just means like you can swing in and then you put everything back underneath your Mikey, and then you restand your Mikey so you can tap it again and you can attack with it again too. So that's just the combo. You're going to see that quite a bit, I would assume, if you're playing against this list. It's very, very strong. And then one last thing I kind of wanted to cover in this video is that we do have some cards that aren't Digimon that have traits. It's kind of new. They're just kind of, I would say, put at least this is for some mock-up. These aren't like official cards, so we're going to see how they do it here. But we do have, for example, this Blazing Memory Boost. So reveal top 6 cards to your hand, add 2 cards with blue flare and their traits among them to your hand, and then you may place 1 Christopher among them without playing its memory cost. Christopher also is a tamer that has this blue flare trait right here, which means that this can also find itself, which is kind of neat. And then also, for example, Mikey as well. It does have X Crossheart, and most of these tamers will have, or not X Cross. I almost made it through an entire video without it calling it X Cross. It has Crossheart. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Crossheart and its traits among them to your hand, and 1 Digimon card with Crossheart and its traits underneath this tamer. Return any to the bottom of your deck. So that just means that you can find any cards. So there are some tamers with Crossheart that this can find another tamer, which is really cool, and then put a Digimon underneath it. And for anything else that needs Crosshearts, this does meet it, as long as it says specifically a card and not a Digimon, like it says in the second half of this. And that is pretty much how this video is going to wrap up. Just kind of a overview of how these new cards work, and just a forum for you guys to ask any questions you might have about how it works as well. It's a little bit new, it's a little bit interesting about how all of these kind of work, but it is, I don't know, I think it's fun, and so far I haven't found out it's too oppressive, and maybe that will change the next couple of weeks, but that is going to be it for us today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, any questions, let me know, and I'll catch you all next time.